Hey everyone, this is my week for a blog post, and I decided to not write so much on the blog, but just do a video for the majority of it. These last few days have been pretty difficult, I think, for a lot of people. The killing of George Floyd on TV, on video, that's gone viral, by a police officer. Amy Cooper, and her understanding of her white privilege and power as a white woman to endanger the life of a black man because of something she wasn't happy about. And then the riots in Minnesota, as well as Ahmaud Arbery being killed in February, and it seemed like we didn't know about it for at least a month after it happened. It's been hard. It's been hard to watch it all. The Bible talks about hope deferred makes the heart grow sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. And if you're a person who is watching any of this, and especially the resulting riots, and you're wondering, what good is that doing? And why is there such a visceral response to what is happening? That would be why. The hope for racial equity, equality, and justice has been too long deferred. And people's hearts are so sad and so sick and so tired. So it's really important that you understand that. I wanted to say thank you to my non-black friends who reached out to me this week. You know who you are. Checking on me, asking me what you can do to be an ally, reminding me of your love and support. I just want to say thank you. It was needed. It was appreciated. I have to say that I've spent almost a year proactively getting healing in a lot of areas, including racial prejudice and injustice that have impacted me and my family. It's just sort of what I see for my people. And so I'm not going to plunge headlong into depression and despair about this, because I know how hard it is to get out of that. But I absolutely understand what people are feeling, why they are feeling it, and even why they may feel angry with their white counterparts for just either being silent or being ignorant until this point that this type of stuff happens, because we've been talking about it for a long time. And I know I personally, my husband and I, we prayed with our children on Thursday night. We've been trying to incorporate family prayer meetings into our regular routine. And we talked to them about George Floyd and why he died. We talked to them about the fact that there are many police who do their job honorably, and then there are some that do not. And unfortunately, we don't necessarily know which ones are the good ones or which ones are the bad ones until we have interactions with them, and we have to be prepared for what may come. So we talked about that. We prayed for protection over our family, over our extended family, basically over everybody that looks like us in our country and throughout the diaspora, and even some places in the continent of Africa. You know, this is not new. And so I also anointed each of my children with oil on their foreheads, and I spoke blessings over them. Blessings of protection, blessings of wisdom, blessings of peace. And one thing that I have to say as a mom of black sons, I have to do double work to keep my heart at peace about my children, but especially my sons, when it comes to just their daily life, not even just their interaction with police, should they ever have to have that happen, but just in their daily lives. So I was kind of reflecting on the things that I do as a black mom to help to keep my children safe. And one of the things that I do is, and it's kind of like this, you know, my sons are getting older. My oldest will be 15 in August, and my middle son he just turned 13 in May, and they both have vastly different personalities. But recently my husband and I discovered that my oldest son is on the autism spectrum, high functioning, but he doesn't register certain social cues as easily as most. And I know that as my son will be 15 and soon will be driving, that I have to be vigilant and aware of what he understands and what he knows, so that he can have positive interactions with police, because obviously I want my son to come home alive. My concern is that, when my son gets overly emotionally stimulated, he tends to not handle it well. So I don't, I have to tell him things like, you can never run, you can never just kind of go bonkers, you cannot give them a reason to do anything to you. You have to stay calm. So just really, we have him in counseling. He's getting, training about, social cues and learning how to recognize things better, and I feel like, you know, my husband and I have to be very, very diligent about that, because he's already black. And as beautiful as we believe our family is, and made by God, and made in his image just like everybody else, I know that there's some people that don't. So I have to make sure that he understands that. My middle son, he very much believes in justice. And you can have a little temper on him, and you know, my husband and I recognize that we have to be very vigilant about teaching him about how to process things properly and to contain that, because if he were to ever, you know, try to demand his rights in certain situations, it might be really all bad. I'm in my car, guys. It got a little hot. I don't want this video to get too long, but I just want to just reiterate what everybody sort of said in their videos, to hold space for people who are grieving and processing and figuring things out the way that they are. That I think everybody's in a different place, and we just really have to hold space for people and let them process through what they're feeling, what they're experiencing. And I think the hard thing about George Floyd is that this is obviously, that is the worst case scenario that anyone could ever, you know, imagine, right? To see a police officer killing an unarmed, contained black man as a means of sport. That's what it looked like to me. There are lots of other things that we deal with on a daily basis. We call them microaggressions that black people and other people of color, but I really can't speak to any other experience but my own. You know what? I'll say I can't handle any other experience but my own. I could probably speak to it, but there's enough going on with me. But my husband and I just sold our house 2 years ago, and we lived in a, you know, really nice neighborhood. And I've homeschooled my kids off and on pretty much, especially my boys, almost their whole school career. And Josh, one day we were doing schoolwork and he got mad. He was like, I don't want to do this. And he, you know, ran out of the house with his socks on, no shoes. And he starts running down the street. So then maybe like 15 minutes later, he comes back, and I just let him stay out there because I already knew. I mean, he had done stuff like that before. He would say like, I just want to leave. I want to move. I want to get out of here. And I helped him pack his backpack one time, you know. I'm like, okay, if it's just too hard for you here, then I'll just help you go. But he always changed his mind and came back. But he came back to the house, and I'm like, yeah, you need to do your math now. And so he started doing his math, and maybe 10 minutes into him being back home and doing his math, I hear the doorbell ring, and I go to the door, and there's a police officer there. And I said, yes, officer, can I help you? And he said, yeah, I got a call from one of your neighbors, and they said that they saw a black boy running up and down the street with no shoes on. Is everything okay? I said, yeah, that was my son. He had a tantrum. And he's fine. And I don't remember what else he asked me, but he left. And I thought, you know, I don't understand. I do understand. I do understand why the police were called, because they saw a black kid in a nice neighborhood running down the street with no shoes on, and they thought that that was suspicious. But if it was out of a heart of care and concern for my son, because he was probably like, I don't know, 8 at the time, they could have very easily gone outside and said, hey, you look lost. Is there something wrong? Can I help you get back to your mom? And so I remember sharing this with a girlfriend a while back, and she's like, really? Are you serious? I would have been livid. And I was like, yeah, I was pretty angry, but at the same time, you have to live as a black person. You have to learn how to live within a white space. And I think part of my inner healing journey, and especially in school, was to recognize the many ways that I personally have hidden myself to make white people feel comfortable with who I am, so that I am not threatening to them, and therefore I can live my life in decency. And I don't think that you have to be I'm not going to change who I am in order to communicate the things that bother me or harass me or concern me about being a black person in this country, but I will be having those conversations, because it's not okay for the burden of proof of why I should live, or why anybody that looks like me should live, to be all on me and the people who look like me. It's time to start sharing the load. And I'll just say, I've heard a lot of white people say, oh gosh, you're just so strong. Just black people are just so strong. We shouldn't have to be this strong. Mm-mm. So, while you matter, I also matter. And I will not apologize for the space that I take up in the world. I will not apologize for the experiences that I have had that have helped to form me and shape me. I will not apologize for wanting better for my children. Any parent in their right mind wants a better world for their children, and that's what I want for mine. And so if I broach conversations with you and you're one of my white friends, don't be offended. My goal is not to be offensive, but the content may be offensive. Because I think on the whole, Black people have just swallowed too much of the bilge water, and it's just time out for that. So that's all I had to say. And there's actually a lot more that I could say, but like I said, I don't want this video to get too long. But while I will say that I am more than happy to talk to my white friends about my experience as a Black person in this country, I do want you to know that it is also your job to educate yourself about the Black experience in this country, and to take real stock of how this country was made instead of the romanticized history that is projected in our schools. And so just know, like, I'm happy to talk, but I also I understand my capacity, and there may be days that I don't want to talk about it. I don't have the energy for it. Being Black is not the only problem that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. So, and to my my Black brothers and sisters, I just want to say that, you know, I love you and I see you. I encourage you to process your anger and your sadness, even if you're getting professional help and counseling, praying with your pastors, with your family, with your friends. And this is for you. And it's not to silence you either. You do need to be talking about these things, but just so that you just don't live in like a living hell. I encourage you to really, really take care of your hearts. So many things I didn't realize that I was carrying until I really started dealing with my heart and my emotions, and, you know, why I do certain things or why I feel certain ways about things. So anyway, I'm sure we'll just, this conversation can never stop happening. And I think that, you know, people who maybe are older and remember, you know, the 1960s and the civil rights era and all the beautiful work that was done then, you're thinking, you know, maybe white or Black, like, we've already dealt with this. And it, you know, racism is so pervasive that you could even deal with it to some degree, but since it's a heart issue, you have to continue to talk about these things. You have to talk about it with people that you know. Start within your community, build trust, start, you know, talking to your children about these things. Talk about, you know, if you're white people, how your children can be allies. I mean, I have so many stories of my childhood, because I grew up in predominantly white areas, of girls literally openly rejecting me, telling me it was because I'm Black. I don't want to be your friend because you're Black. Very, very, very painful. So, I mean, and even in my job, like, most homeschooling moms are white. And, you know, I'm always reading, especially when I'm first getting to know them. What do you think about me as a Black person? I'm your teacher. What do you think about that? And I have great relationships with all of my families. I'm thankful to the Lord that really hasn't been an issue, but you never know. I know every day I walk out of my house into my life that there's potential that there will be somebody who doesn't like me simply because of the way that I look. That is my reality. Who cares about my character? Who cares about my family, where I come from, what I believe, my character? Some folks, they don't even let you get to that point. You just have the wrong shade. And it's real. It's real. I don't know of any Black person in this country that can honestly say they have never had any kind of racist incident happen to them. I remember being scared out of my mind because there was a kid who, I was living in Ventura, California at the time, in the early 90s. And there was a kid who drove by on his bike and called me the N-word. Came inside crying to my dad. He proceeds to get in his car and follow the kid for the next few blocks. And I was freaking out because I just knew somebody, because, you know, my dad's come a long way, but, you know, you get him with his kids or other things and he can kind of snap sometimes. And I just was so afraid that somebody was going to kill my dad over trying to protect his daughter. And I was like, it's not even that serious. Like, I'll get over it. I would prefer you being alive. And so, you know, have conversations. And somebody said recently, it's like, you know, one of my white friends, I've had, you know, my hand slapped by Black people when I've tried to broach situations or topics like this. And I want you to recognize that you may have to be like a beekeeper. Put on your armor as you go into this hive. Because people are, and I'm not going to apologize for them either. They're hurt, they're upset, they're scared. And I think that it's just been too long that the burden of proof, like we have to be, you know, saints in our personal life, or, you know, that's kind of like the thing with George Floyd. And it's like I'm reading on him, and he was this amazing man in his community. Just a beautiful, genuinely beautiful human being. And yet my heart is like, but what if he wasn't? What if he was like even a deadbeat? You know, does that mean that he didn't deserve to live? He didn't deserve justice? It's like, so Black people have to be angelic. We cannot have bad days. We cannot, you know, it's not right. It's not right that a white person who can be emotionally disturbed if attacking police, but a Black person is just defiant. It's not right. We have to take ownership for this kind of stuff. We have to take ownership for the things that impact our lives. And so just want to thank you for watching the video. Check on your Black friends. I probably had a really hard week. Even us who really genuinely believe in the protection of God, I literally had to use all my tools. I have to stay informed about what's going on in the world. I can't live in a bubble. but it wasn't easy. The conversations that I had with my husband were not easy. The conversations that I had with my children were not easy. They were difficult. They were hard. They are necessary. The conversations that you have with your husband and your children are hard, and they are necessary. So, all right, y'all. I said I was going to get off like 10 different times that this is really happening. All right, peace.